Hello, hello, ooh, hello, and welcome to another daily code fun. I really like this. Oh man, I liked it so much, I glitched out of the Matrix. Oi, there we go. And I really like you, but you're a tiny bit out of focus. Only a little, Thindle. Hello, the Z-Man. Hello, Thindle. Good day to you. I hope you are doing well. I am setting up a couple of things. I wonder if I can use this. I might need to create my own self-signed certificate for this computer because I plan on running a lot of apps in IIS Express on this machine directly. And I just set up 2 of them. I'm going to try deploying one of them right now, if it'll let me while it's running. I doubt it will. I've heard I've heard of clap lights, but never snap focus. Yeah, it's a new feature that we just added. It's really cool. Problem is I can't repeat it. It's not reliable. I'll try that later. No worries. So I will admit to you up front that my brain is starting to get it's at the point where I'm trying to put too many things inside of it all at once. So I'm going to have a hard time following along with our approaches to trying to get this testing done. But I'm going to do my best to stay focused and just learn a thing. But like right now, I'm still studying for the exam, for the AZ-204 exam for Sunday. There's so much material for it. I've gone through the majority of the Microsoft Learn courses, whatever they're called, paths, learning paths, and modules, and all of the units for those. And now I'm going through a crash course, essentially, to refresh myself on all of the things that I touched on throughout the courses. And so my brain is very, very busy trying to retain all of that information. But at the same time, we've been working on writing tests and learning new things this way as well. And so what we have open on screen currently is our first set of tests that we're going to do, which are going to be specific to the deposit transaction data entry stuff. I didn't want to close all of those, just video producer. And this goes over here for now. Okay, and the app is not currently running, so that's why that closed. Hello, Deflex, and hello, Lors Cordguard. Lord Korsgaard. Welcome back. How's the day going? It's been very busy learning things and trying to keep track of all of the information that I am feeding my brain. And so I'm going to keep doing that until Sunday. We'll find out tomorrow evening whether I will need to report for jury duty on Monday. So I'll try to keep you up to date with that, but this is just an early reminder that there is a possibility that I will not be streaming for an indefinite amount of time, depending on whether I get selected for jury duty or not. Yay, jury duty. So what I've been trying to do lately is write our first set of tests for the deposit transactions. And deposit transactions, if you recall, are transaction data entries that happen in a form that kind of looks like this, where we are specifying a date, a target account, the amount, and the deposit reason and any memo / note that we want to associate with it. And yeah, and then we hit submit for that. And this is going to be the service on the server that processes the request to actually add you are not a test. um, to add it to the database, to update the existing deposit record, to get all deposit records, and to get deposit record by ID, and to delete. Whether that is a soft delete or not, we'll decide that when we put together the logic. I'm assuming it's going to be a soft delete. Yeah. Hello, Disco. As you know, I got your messages. So hopefully something will come of that. Yep. Okay. So as you can tell, we have not implemented any of these methods because what we're doing is we just set up the classes. So in a service interface that says we are going to have a service called transaction entry service that is going to handle doing our CRUD operations. It's almost a repository on the transactions table. It's just that it's for a specific type. So in this case, this one is a deposit entry. There is also a transfer and a payment. So a transfer is when you're moving money from one account to another account. For example, your checking account to your credit card. That way you're paying off your credit card bill from your checking account, for example. So we have that iTransaction entry service. And the reason that we made it an interface is because depending on whether this service is being in, service methods are being invoked from a client-side thing that needs to use an API to process all of these requests, or on a server technology, like a server rendered application that's running fully on the server, or an API backend that is performing the operations directly, we have different implementations of it. So the client side looks like this, which is also not implemented yet, but it's just going to be a bunch of HTTP requests with some error handling, and then the server side is going to be the actual put data in the database, get data from the database. If we were uploading any files, this would handle doing file uploads, etc. So because we want to do this in a TDD approach, all we've done is set up the classes with all of the methods but not implemented. And now we're going to write some tests. So what all of this is that's currently in here is some examples that the realm that MKB helped us with. So we had a couple of people giving us some input on a good approach to doing these tests. We had Simon Engineering, as we call him, giving us his sample of how he's written tests and how he's done mocking and stuff. And we had Live Coding come on and give his hot takes on unit tests, which are kind of like integration tests to him. where the unit of work is the entire application. I love this picture. So what I was trying to do is read through this code and understand it. So I need to see if there was anything extra that he added since the last time that we looked at this and we brought it over into here. And I'm pretty sure there isn't, because I plan on deleting this note. Conversation. We're not going to merge, but I don't exactly know how to not merge. Just close. Close with comment. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so the thing that I need to do after we understand this is to do the actual mocking of the IDB context factory somehow. We're using some code that he gave us that is this helper class called class context, which wasn't this an abstract class? Yeah, it was. And were any of you actual abstract methods? No, just a bunch of static ones. Okay. Okay. Deflex says jury duty should be interesting. Not for me. I don't. Whoa, Sout. I don't get my kicks from that. You're trying to be positive. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Think positive thoughts. Positive thoughts will be that they will have enough people that they won't need me to report on Monday. Barring that, when I report on Monday, if I have to report on Monday, then they will not select me, because I'll give a real reason why I don't want to participate in jury duty. And my real reason is that the system isn't really, it needs to be reformed, says the reformer. Okay, so I'm just scrolling around right now because my brain is not I'm still thinking about AZ204. Revisiting functions, revisiting key vault, MSAL. Yeah, it's all in there. I just have to organize it to be able to easily access it, or at least turn my patterns into something that will produce the actual right answer. Create patterns, something. Set up my algorithm in my brains. Okay, so this class that he gave us as an example, that MKB, that the realm, that the real gave us as an example, is a generic way to set up a context for any test so that we can mock whatever we want from it, given a type and the mock itself. So here's the mock value. I don't know what the difference between these two are. You're a solution-based person for solutions that don't really work for me. You don't really consider your audience when you give solutions, though. No, I don't get it. I don't understand. Oh, I don't think it's too early for that. You just know that that's not my direction ever. There, you wouldn't be able to catch me at a time when I'm into that or something. I don't know. Too many words for me. So let's figure out this thing here. Oh, okay. All right, all right, all right. So I think I understand this then. So first remember that we have this base class that is going to be our testing context, which is going to have all of our mocked dependency injection, all of our mock data, etc. And during our arrange step, during our setup, we are setting up a new cancellation token. We are telling mock, M-O-Q, and I'm pretty sure this is mock. Yep. Which is a library for doing mocking, that we would like to create a mock of IDB context factory Fineman context called DB context, and the thing that we're going to mock is this method called create DB context async. And when we create DB context async, we're going to return a mock of our DB context, no matter what. Okay. And we're going to get the object from it too. So I wonder if this mock-of also prepares it for dependency injection. It says that when our services request one of those, that we will get an IDB context factory. Cool. Cool. We might be able to debug this as is, and it should fail. We want this to fail. But the thing that we want to do also is find where he mocked up the data, transactions. Okay, so this one is actually adding a new record, so we aren't adding any mock data here. So mockdb.setup e-arrows e.transactions will return a new list of transaction as queryable, build mock db set, which is in mock. What does this do? I don't know what this does. So we'll have to learn what all this does when we build mock db set. But this is pretty much saying when we do .transactions off of our database context. So this is db context factory to make it more clear. I like that. Cool. Okay, so let's get to here. Then we're going to find out on the constructor of this thing if we actually do get a db context factory. So let's debug this test. I think I'm starting to understand this. Cool. And of course, if any of you do have any kind of hints and information that you want to provide regarding this and my understanding of this, I am open to it. So what I'm trying to do is run the test in debug mode. And hopefully we'll hit this breakpoint, which means that all of the mocking setup happened. Then we're going to have our service here and try to run the add transaction, which is kind of weird. Oh, maybe it's not. Maybe in, oh, whoops. Yeah, why didn't it do this? I'm not exactly sure why we weren't able to hit the breakpoint in the constructor. But the cool thing is that we are in the method itself, and our db context factory is populated with our mock db context factory. And I'm sure that if we called something like await db context factory create db context async with our cancellation token, that we would get that mocked find man context. So we're going to try it again, and we will see if we get this. That's going to be our assumptions. Whew. Ready, go. Unit testing. So I'm not really testing the database. What I'm testing is that the functionality doesn't break for this one unit of work. But I guess at the same time, it is kind of testing. Yes. Okay, so if we request this, then we get our mocked find man db context. And so the last thing to check, and this should error on us because we're purposefully throwing new not implemented exception. The last thing that I would like to check is what do we get for, I'll tell you the whole story then, Deflux, since it doesn't seem like you were here for that. Var transactions is, oh my goodness, I'm all calling things the wrong thing. Context dot transactions dot to list. Okay, so this should give me an empty list of transaction, or so I hope. No, not F5. Not F5. Cancel. Okay, so the whole story behind this deflux is that I am still not very knowledgeable about unit testing or doing tests. I know you've seen me try it a couple of times and not get very far, but now I am putting in as much effort as I can to really, really learn it for once. And so the things that I am going to test for this application, instead of trying to do all possible testing that I can, I'm just going to learn it chunk by chunk. And so the first chunk of testing that I want to learn is testing all of my services, my server-side services at that. So I'm not testing the client-side HTTP requests to mock the HTTP client and say when I make a request to this endpoint, when I do a mock. So the way that it'll look is I will have a HTTP client or HTTP client factory, whichever it happens to be, that I'm using. And I will do this setup for each of the methods that I'm going to expect to call and have them return whatever it is that they're supposed to return, whether it's a 200 OK or a 401 or 429 or whatever else I can think of that I would want to test to make sure that I've handled it correctly. Obviously a 500 and a 400 and a 403. So bad request, unauthorized, I can't think of what 401, unsupported media, something like that, and server error 500. And you're welcome, Tyrant. I didn't really help you. You figured it out on your own. I just kind of gave feedback from your solution, that's all. I wish I had seen it earlier because I would have given you the I would have given you that thought. Yeah, I was being a good rubber duck. I am not doing that. So what I just said is I'm not going to test the client side. I am only going to test the server side implementation of the services, but I was listing off things that I would want to test that I have in mind for what I would want to test if I was doing the client side. But the only thing that I'm doing right now is on the server side, I am going to be testing all of the service methods. And in this case, we're only looking at the transaction service, transaction entry. And for this application, we're calling a transaction a financial transaction. So depositing money into an account, withdrawing money from an account, paying for something, transferring money from two accounts or between two accounts. Yeah, so it is going to essentially end up being the services on the API, except that we aren't always going to be using an API. For the Maui app and the Blazor WebAssembly app, yes, that will be an API. But Blazor server, or if we decided that this is just going to run better as an MVC app or Razor ASP.NET ASP.NET Web Pages app, then that would all be running, for example, in the MVC controller or the code behind for the Blazor pages. I got words. I know words. So really that's why I have abstracted all of the actual server-side logic into this shared server transaction entry service. So it doesn't matter what we end up using, which type of application we end up using. Whenever we try to do something on the server, it's going to happen this way. Oh yeah, what about if I use Azure Functions instead for all of these quick things like the add, update, delete, instead of a full-on API. The point is that the code itself is going to be consistent for what runs on the server. Oh, I'm running out of breath. I don't know why. Cool. Okay, so yeah, so this would be a test called add deposit adds to transaction collection or something. I don't know. I'm not good at naming tests either. So what we should see here is we will set up our var to add new deposit entry value model. And the thing that we want that to have is a sample record that will represent our deposit. So one thing that we need to do while we're mocking the database data is to create some accounts information. So what I don't know is how do we pre-populate those related objects that this table is going to need. So I need line items, I need line item lookups, I need account lookups. Yeah, can we inspect? Oh, no ID. I don't know what properties are in this. Let's go back to our UI, our components, data entry components, deposit, the purple deposit. We got transaction date, target account, not display text. Horizon amount Menmo. All right, so these should be the fields that we want to populate with our sample data. Okay, so transaction date is going to be a new date. Time, I don't know why you didn't just add it to my usings. 2022. So 1, 1 works for me. This is going to be the string version of an account ID. So we're going to do 1, 2 string. 1, 2 string. This is going to be a deposit reason ID, and we're just going to use ID1 again. And then an amount. Why? Oh, okay. I was going to say, why isn't this angry at me for making an amount a string? And we are going to have no memo. It's just going to be null. And the amount is going to be, how about 2, 3, 8, this amount, rubles. Yeah, so I would also want to do like currency or something like that. And then the database would store everything in one central currency. And then there'll be exchange rates and blah, 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 blah. I really wonder. No, I don't. I don't want to know. My wonder was going to be, how is that handled? So let's say that we treat money as an investment type thing, the way that stocks and bonds are treated, and we store money in a bank account that is in one currency, and then we want to withdraw it and then move it over to US dollars or some other country where it is valued higher. And we just keep doing that until we keep making money off of our base amount that we started with. Is that a thing? Money is treated that way. It's just a super bad way of doing it. Yeah, it sounds like a terrible, terrible. People do that. Interesting. I wouldn't want to. Oh my goodness. I wouldn't want to keep track of that. All right. So yeah, I need to know how to do the actual. Dang it! I keep pushing F5. No, I didn't actually mean to run it. It didn't close unexpectedly. I closed it on purpose. So for example, Dflex has money in the UK, which is worth more US dollars than going from US dollars to sterling. And I need to time when to convert it to US dollars. Should have done it 20 years ago before I was born. He's saying he's younger than 20. That's funny. Hello, Mystic Soda. Mystic Soda said, smart man. Smart man. Are you trying to say 20 years before you were born? Because I have a feeling you were born a little bit longer than 20 years ago. Not that I know how old you actually are or anything. I need to figure out how to mock the actual data so that I have lookups so that I can use these, because I have. Is that going to matter? You know what? I don't think that that's going to matter, because once again, we aren't testing the database itself. We're not testing to see if we try to add something that does not have a foreign key constraint, will the database reject it? Maybe. I don't really know if this does that or not. I guess we're going to find out. But I still would like to figure out how to mock like adding some deposit reasons. Deflex says, when I first came to the US, I had a moment when I converted my one British pound to $3.33 US, and I was like, wait, my 99 pence increase buys me 3 times the amount of ice cream in the US? Oh, ice cream. My 99 pence ice cream buys me 3 times the amount of ice cream in the US. Yes, got it. And now the currency rate is down at like 1 pound to $1.14. Yep, it's pretty close. It's a lot closer than it used to be. Excuse me, can we look at this? What? Oh, duh, because I just pushed new. New. You were like 7 years old when you first came to the US. To the US. I was 3, I think. I don't remember where we went, but I'm pretty sure I was in Germany for the first 3 years of my life, and then I came to America, and then I went back to Germany, and then we went to America again, and stayed in America that time. America. I'm trying to go back to the test, to the this, and tell it to use the to add. Okay, one more the this thing. Control RT. The thing is, ice cream meant a lot back then. America. Yeah, America. Oh look, it now hit my constructor for the first time. That's fun. All right. So our data entry view model looks like this, which is good. And we don't have a posted date. Our transaction looks like an empty list of transactions. And so, yeah, what we would do is we would add our data entry view model as a transaction. Okay, so I think that we are set up so far. Let's look up information on this build mock DB set, which again comes from oh, okay, I see. So this isn't actually creating the set of data. This is setting up some methods that we can call. Which all come from DB set of T entity. So this isn't actually populating any data. That's what I was kind of wanting to know, which means that we have to seed the database with data. So do we do that here? What is it called? Object. Interesting. Let's go back to our database. Hello, Quisper. How have you been? I hope you are doing well. enjoying time, enjoying life. Did I make seed private? It's public. Ah, but it needs a model builder. I wish there was a way to bootstrap this. So this is where I would want to inject my Finance Man context so that I could call something on it like ensure created in like an in-memory database so that it can call that seed method during the create database migration. Because otherwise I'm essentially I could do something more like this. Public static list of T entity, the IEnumerable of T entity. Not quite, but it's getting fine. Doing some art to calm and chill. Awesome. Well, I hope that you get to chill with us. I'm kind of in a sleepy mood, so it might be a little low energy, but at least I'm starting to understand this stuff. So hopefully that energy will go your way. Lots of many just for you get seed data of T entity. And what this is going to return is a switch on type of T entity. Amin is here. Have you ever watched Game of Thrones? I have watched the entire first series of Game of Thrones, and we have been watching House of Dragons. But if you want to discuss things about it, I would recommend doing it in a different channel. Because there are a lot of people that probably want to watch it and maybe haven't seen it. I'm mean. But they haven't seen any of it yet, so I wouldn't want to accidentally spoiler people. I just don't want to do that to other people. So yes, but do I really need case type T when T is type of? We don't need as enumerable on here. Ow. But we might need of type T entity. Can you not do of type T entity? Oh, I put it 0. Yeah, so do we have to have this? Could I maybe do something more like type of T entity switch? And we'll do var right val for now. Type of lookup account type arrows. No, it doesn't look like we can do it that way either. we would still have to do RT1T is type of. So it's pretty much the same thing, just switched into a switch expression. All right, that makes sense though. I think I am going to go with this approach, and this is going to be good in the long run because anytime that I want to change my seed data, I would just be able to get all of my lookup, my initial lookup items. And then for everything else, I may as well go ahead and write the for everything else statement. I would return new list of T entity. So empty list. And actually what I'm probably going to do is array.empty of T entity. That way we don't get as much overhead. That way we don't get as much overhead. Like the Spider-Man name pointing to each other, or Spider-Man meme pointing to each other. T entities. How have you been, Amin? How's work going? How's life going? All right, so our next one, let's see if it fills this in for me. If I just put this here and I push enter, will you give it to me? Nothing yet. Is it because I don't have it in my clipboard? I think it's because I don't have it in my clipboard. Why must you be such a pain? Copy pasta. Right. Next one is look up by line item type. Nothing still. You did it for the first one. That's just rude. And again, all of these can be, well, they're going to be enumerables anyway. From this of type. One more, which is our enum friend. Hello, enum friend. Case type case varT when T is type of lookup recurrent something or other. Lookup recurrence type of type lookup recurrence type return And there is no explicit conversion from lookup recurrence type to tEntity, which is why I put of type. Oh, of type tEntity. I got this. We got this. You got this. Okay, and the whole reason that I wanted to do this is because I wanted to do get seed data, look up recurrence type for all of these, for every single one. I'm not even going to update the lookup recurrence type. They're all going to be lookup recurrence types. Sold. Don't need sort order anymore. No. Failed. Basta. Okay. So now we have a way to get just the data back for our seed. And yeah, this thing wants to use a switch expression. I like switch expressions better. They look better to me, so I'm not angry at it. Yeah, and I'm going to switch all of these to inferred, because that's how I roll. And you don't need a comma. Okay. So now I have a way, as I was saying, to get just the data back so that when I'm over here and I am working on my database mock, I need to figure out where exactly to do this. Because I almost always want to have my database initialized to have that seed data in it. So would that be something like I would run this for every single table that I want to seed. And this is all going in the DB. So I'm going to put this up here as part of my database context setup. And then we can add it to the DB context factory down here. Because I'm sure it doesn't matter what order we do this in. And I'm kind of wanting to do this step in the constructor. So that might not be a good idea because while I'm running the tests, that means that all of these are going to share the same mockDB context. But I really only want to seed it once. for anything that doesn't matter. So like all of my lookup items, when dealing with deposit, transfer, and payment transactions, are going to stay the same. They aren't going to change. And that's why I want to seed it once. They will only change when this happens. And I need the get to be an expected response. All right. So I've gotten myself stuck again. I'm not fully understanding. I mean, you're here. You should be able to help me with. No, you wouldn't. With TDD. You'd be able to help me with DDD. Hmm. Yeah. So man. Let's just try this. Let's see what it looks like. I'm sure we're gonna break everything. I mean, we're not gonna break everything. Tend to pass context in here, so wouldn't usually have to do a separate mock, and then we'll need this to mock EF. So let's put this here. Mock the DB sets used by the tests. See data for lookup tables. So we're going to have our transaction table being touched. We're going to have our line item. What is it called? What do we call it? Transaction detail. Like, does this thing do anything else with our... So also every single DB set that I'm going to set up like this will need to be tracked. And that's going to be a bunch of them. Because now we also have the deposit detail. So this deposit table is the transaction detail table, but for deposits. So maybe we don't have transaction detail when we do a deposit. We'll find out. And then our lookup tables that are going to be affected. So we have account. And we have lookup. Why am I in there? Data mock helpers. Nope. Why am I in there? Financial management. Account type. I don't think we're going to need account type. Category. Deposit reason, definitely. And not recurrence type. So let's do it like that. I don't really know. Here's deposits. And so this is going to be our finan man context dot, nope, our data helpers dot get seed data of deposit, which there isn't going to be any. There isn't going to be any. So I should have just left it as it was. My bag. This would most likely come from our data helpers then at this point in time. And this is the thing that's going to be our data helper dot get seed data lookup deposit reason as queryable build mock db set. That makes sense, right? We really don't have seed accounts. Crap. So that means that I'm going to have to create a new account that's going to be used by a test. And the thing is, I really don't care whether that account is a real account or not. It just needs to exist in the database so that it can pass validation on save changes. I think. I don't know. We're going to try stuff, though. We're going to keep trying things. Mock deposit. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because I will be doing validation in the service. I'm also going to alphabetize these. Okay. Apparently we need to keep track of this. No, we need to keep track of this because this is the thing that's going to be under test in just about all of the cases. So a private read-only mock of financial management context, definitely that one. And one for transaction. It's mock of DB set of transaction. Mock of DB set of transaction. Oh man, type it, type it, type it. All right. So this is going to be U after a rename. And you are going to be a U like so. Mock data for accounts. Okay, so this is where our actual data helper, our mock data helper, is going to come into play. Pasta. Ooh, like I said, it's going to be a sleepy day. I really, really hope you guys are enjoying your vibing session if that's what you're doing. My brain is still trying to keep up and catch up. Okay, so I am going to switch these out into different sections. How are we going to section this? Set up the primary, mock the primary table entity that is going to be used by the service. Yeah, and it's like I really do want to have. How's the stream in your project going? Hello, Jim. It's going well. So I was letting everyone know earlier that my brain is overloaded. I'm trying to keep up with all of the training that I'm doing for the certification exam on Sunday. There's so much material needed that you need to know for AZ204. And if you haven't really worked in it, then the recommendation was do the AZ900. And I really should have been doing that, I think. But I have a pretty good grasp on how to do things in Azure using all of my resources that I've gone through, all of the training, all of the Microsoft Learn courses and stuff, and YouTube videos. So now I've just been going through and refreshing my memory, kind of like a Cliff's Notes version of all of the training that I did through a YouTube video, so that I'm ready for it on Sunday. And I'm going to pass it. I am going to pass it. I know I'm going to pass it. I just hate taking tests. And then I'm also trying to learn how to do test-driven development, how to write these tests and do the mocking and everything. So learning this at the same time of that is kind of making my brain work overtime as far as trying to learn and retain information. And I have the feeling that I want to drop this until I take the exam and then come back to it afterwards, but then that means like not streaming for the rest of the week, but I don't want to do that. And thank you so much, Murat, for the follow. Oh my goodness, I can't even use words either. Yeah, yeah. Pacing myself is not working out at the moment. So I think the thing that happened was I was going at a good pace, and then I was pulled into a an effort that I wasn't expecting to get pulled into. And even when I was pulled into that effort, I thought that I would just be providing some opinions and some what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, just opinions. That's the best word that I can get from my point of view on whatever it is that they're looking for. But in the end, I ended up playing a larger role than I expected to, and had to put in a lot of mental effort and a lot of they just weighed my input a lot heavier than I was expecting them to. And so I wasn't able to devote as much time to only my client project and this project and um, the training, which I thought I would be able to do a lot more of. Anyway, not an excuse. Definitely not an excuse. Guidance and direction for the overall project is probably what you mean. It's just more of a they were asking for my point of view on like how long it would take to put together this many screens for a UI project, what kind of a team, or no, they didn't even ask me what kind of a team up front. I was only expecting to give like general information about here's how long it normally takes me if I have these conditions. So someone has sketched out all of the screens in Figma, given me a good UX approach guidelines and stuff to use. So all of the colors of my buttons need to be this, the size of the font is this for headers, for captions, for all of the standard text, and well defined, everything, like everything that I got for the project that I'm currently working on for the client that I'm working with. It's like 1 to 2 days per simple screen, and then you add the margin of error. So you say 1 week for simple screens, and for medium complexity screens, it's something like 2 to 3 weeks, and then for highly complex screens. And this is by complex, we're talking about when you interact with this screen, what are all of the user interactions, how much content is on there, um, does it look like it's going to be easy to lay out or not, and all of those considerations. So this is the kind of thing that I thought I would be telling them. And when I did, they really liked it. And then they're like, okay, what kind of a team would you look at? What kind of technologies would you choose for this specific case? What? And then it was like, all right, so I'm pretty much designing the entire UI development process. And in the end, I ended up putting together the UI development process for a presentation slide, or 2 slides, I think it was, that they were using for this effort. And I was like, it was a lot of time, it was a lot of thought, it was a lot of effort, and I just wasn't expecting it. But I love helping out, and it was a good experience, but I was not ready for it. Okay. Use mock data for accounts and existing deposits. Oh, I guess this deposits goes up here. because that's part of the primary table. Tables and entities. Yeah, I know is a really hard thing to say, but when this was my first encounter of a situation like this, like with my expectations being set to you're just going to be someone that's weighing in on these small areas, thanks for your input, go back to your work kind of thing. I didn't know that I should have expected them to, or the way that each individual thing was introduced was just this much more effort on my part until it turned into something that I am fully involved with and need to be weighing in like that night. I was like, how? They are experts at doing this, I'm assuming. And I don't respect that. That was not cool, man. Not cool. So, in the future, at least I know what to look out for now that I have a pattern. Okay, and hello, Abaddis. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. So I'm going through and kind of slowly moving things around, reorganizing it to a way that makes sense for me. So we're working on a test class that is going to serve as the place where we test all of our deposit transaction service methods. And I started to understand this approach of using this kind of shared class context or base class context where you can supply any thing that is going to be the thing that is under test, in this case, our deposit transaction entry service, and then have our mocks set up for us like this, and then also use that mock database, or not mock database, mock library, MOQ, for doing things like setting up DB context mocking. And I'm thinking that this is the approach that I want to use for setting up my initial data, doing it in the constructor so that it happens only once. What I'm curious about is, does the constructor get called every time um, for every test? So the thing that I want to look at real quick, now that this part is set up to this point, is if I were to run all tests, does the constructor get called multiple times, once for each test? Because I don't know that. All right, everyone else is good to go there. So I'm going to go and let's just do these two. Okay, so if we hit this breakpoint more than once when I debug all of the tests, then I will know the answer to that. And this is how I learn, by the way. I make assumptions, and then I test it out, and then I resolve whatever the differences are, and then try to understand why it's happening, and then test that answer, and then try it again. So here's my mock context and my mock DB sets for that context. And so we should have some deposit reasons. If we go into object, then we will see is it not object? Results view? No. Did this thing not actually give me anything back? Sumimasen. There are no items. So I'll need to check that out and find out why my seed data isn't giving me back any deposit reasons. It should. You know what happens when you make assumptions, right? Makes an ass out of you and some guy named Umption. Okay, so there is one test being called. It should fail. Here is a second test being called, and it did not redo my constructor. Yes, it did. Oh, yes, it did. Crap. So this is pretty much the same as having a separate method to initialize my mockDB context. And so it would probably be better if I scope this to each method. That way I don't have any possibility of this test trying to use this DB context mock when it's in an invalid state, all that stuff. So thank you for proving that to me. Thank you so much. You piece of Dang it. It sucks. Okay, so another thing that I am open for ideas and thoughts on is here is my intention. For each one of the things that I'm going to test, which is going to be the full CRUD operations of the service and any other helper operations that I might have in this service, is to set up my database, seed my lookup tables, and pre-populate any of my support tables like the accounts table and the deposits table. Not deposits, just accounts, line item types, and well, yeah, I already said lookup tables. So in this case, it would really only be my accounts table. And then if I wanted to have any other transactions for get, for example, then that should work. Instead of doing that in each individual method, is there a recommended approach for doing that initialization? Like the problem here is that I need both the transaction and the deposit table available in here, in this method. It's almost like my data helper here in my test would have something like public static void. Yeah, void. We may as well return the mock of fineman context. Although, yeah, we'll do it that way. Do we not have access to mock in here? Mock is a type from the mock namespace. Fineman context. There. I don't know why it didn't give me that option before. So we'll do setup lookup tables, this mock finan man context, mock db context, I mean db context mock to be consistent. And what this will do is all of these for deposit reason, for account types, for database, where you at? Tables, account type, categories, categories. Oops. I can't. Category. Deposit reasons, line item type. And recurrence type. Cool. So that'll set up all of my lookup tables, and then it'll return db context mock. And does this thing actually return anything? It returns an I setup of, because I was kind of wanting to chain them together. And this is an I returns result. Because I wanted to do like dot setup this, dot returns this, dot setup this, dot returns this, but I don't think that's a thing. I don't think it does that. Okay, so then the first thing that I would do here is set up lookup tables. And one thing that I would like to do is figure out how long that actually takes to do. Because then the other thing that I would like to do is set up my mock data as well. So have some accounts available, some deposits, some transactions, some transfers, some line item detail, and one other table that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it'll be one of these. I don't have to think of it off the top of my head. Payees, for example, would be the other one. So am I not actually using line item type anymore? Line item details, transaction detail. I think that might have been moved into payment. Nope, it is not. Dang. We're gonna have to restructure this database. This whoop database. Okay. We'll just keep going with what we got. I want to know how long this takes. Can we do that in Visual Studio Community, or do we not actually get the little helper that tells us how long it took for a method to run? We do have diagnostics tools, so that's promising. Yeah, what I'm expecting to see that I'm used to seeing in something like Visual Studio Enterprise is over here to the right, it would tell you how much time has passed since the previous breakpoint. So if I hit F10, oh, we get it. Then this only took 159 milliseconds. And I say only, but that is a considerable amount of time if we have a lot of tests that are going to be calling setup lookup tables. So you multiply this by 10 and it's already going to take an extra second. You multiply this by 100 and it's going to take 10 seconds to run all the tests. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Or 15 seconds, I guess, if you multiply by 100. So that might not actually be something that we want to do in every test. I just really wish there was a way to do this once with setup lookup tables. And then anytime that I am going to do a test on it, I get a copy of it. Does the Finan Man context implement clonable? So does db context implement iClonable? IDB context pullable, iDisposable. I'm not seeing clonable in that chain. Infrastructure, nope. IDB context dependencies, nope. Oops. But hello, Dukasoft. How are you doing? IDB set cache, not clonable. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for it to be clonable, so. And what about mock? Are you clonable? As I hit F11? I mock of T. Nope. And this was down there. I interceptor? Nope. Yeah, so I don't think we'd be able to do it where we set up all of our initial tables once and then essentially just create a clone of it at that state. Instead, we're going to have to reset it up every time. Man, let's test that again. You go away for now. Doing awesome as usual. Fantastic. And Abidus was like, challenge accepted, because Dukasoft was like, you can't even make coffee in that time, in 159 milliseconds. You can if you have 1,000 tests using the same method every single time that they're doing their setups. There's got to be better methodology for this. Someone probably has a really good approach to making sure that they can set up their database once and then have their DB context provided to the service in a way that you get that initial setup. What if we mocked commit async and told it to do rollback async instead. I don't know. I don't know. I bet you there's a thing called testing too much. I don't know. I've heard of upwards of 10,000 tests in a test library. I guess if the tests are run in parallel, then it wouldn't be that big of a concern because it's only 159 milliseconds per each. That will run side by side. Yeah, 10,000. I think it was. I'm gonna look it up.
It's over 9,000.
It's over 9,000. Yeah, it's gonna be hard for me to look up something like that. I'm not very good at searching for that. So I don't want to misspeak for which project I thought it was that I heard about it. It sounds like you work for Aperture Science. I was just playing Portal Pinball yesterday, actually. I love pinball so much. Um, but I remember there being an event that happens regularly where one of the presenters was talking about the total number of tests that they have for their product, and it was in upwards of 10,000. I like saying it in upwards of. All right, so same amount of time, 186, a little bit longer that time. You tried to kill me. What's up with all of the new lines, though? That one kind of makes sense. This one doesn't. Oh, this is probably the second example. All right, what is this example then? This example is testing the add transaction. If you need what was added. Okay. So again, this is from MKB, these samples. And that's why I don't really know what they're doing unless I really, 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 really read them. I guess the thing I could do. No, I can't. Crap. Because I don't have ID in my data entry view model. Because they don't need ID. Maybe it will when I'm editing. That's a consideration. I guess we'll find out as well. So anyway, the point that I was trying to get to with this was, should I write something that gives me deposits and transactions Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write in my data helper, data mock helper, a couple more extensions. Actually, they're not going to be extensions. They are going to be a list of transaction entity generate deposit transactions int count and we'll just do by default 1. And then who's going to test this extension? So I like I like this recommendation. And we'll do enum from 1 to count. We're going to create a new transaction with ID, whatever the number is. Transaction date is just going to be a random date. I want it to be a random date. Is there a good way to generate a random date between two dates? Oh, cool. I like this approach. So you're pretty much getting the time between the two dates, and then you're just going to add a time span that is some random number of minutes between those two dates, or between 0 and the time between those two dates. I like that. I like that a lot. So we're going to make that a helper, an extension. We're going to call them earliest date and latest date. Oh, it is just going to be a helper method. And we will set it up like this. And this will be latest date minus earliest date dot. We'll make these vars and we'll just return. Cool. Okay, so we have a way to generate random dates now. Awesome. And we'll do something like yeah, I guess we have to do it this way. Date time dot min value. Date time dot. Aren't these constants? Dang. Yeah, I don't like that. I would have to make them nullable and blah, 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 blah. All right, Deflex has a small question, so I will try to answer you. Tukasov says the answer is 42, though, and I think he's right. This can just be a const. That doesn't make sense to do if I'm just going to make a const anyway. Yeah, if I'm gonna make a const anyway, then I'll just I'll put it up here. Equals new date time from 2019 1. So we started tracking all of our stuff in 2019. You can't do consts in static classes, so we'll just call it static. And latest date. Uh, date time dot UTC today. Yeah, sure. Plus add days 10. Okay, so Deflex's question is, if I have a service in my builder, say a singleton, is there an override class, auto startup class for that service? If the answer is no, then no need to explain. I don't know what you mean by override class, auto startup class. I mean, what you would need to understand is how dependency injection works, which is when you request a singleton in any of your classes, oh, these are private fields. Like, you don't instantiate it at all. If you're setting it up for dependency injection using a singleton, then you request it. You still can if you wanted to. You could create a new instance of that class. You could still use it like a regular class. However, what you generally do is you get an instance of it by injecting it into your class using the constructor. Yeah, so if you're adding it as a singleton, then it's only ever going to do that once unless you manually instantiate it yourself. In which case, it's going to be a local copy only. So I don't know what you mean by override class or auto startup. I need to go into my transaction table because I really don't know. Yeah, it is called deposit. So this thing needs a transaction date. Oh, it's because I'm missing a closing parent. Got it. And this will be nullable date time. So now we can do it this way. Then if earliest date, if not has value, then earliest date equals earliest date. Same with latest. What happened? I looked away for a second. Hello, Sultanis. Thank you so much for the follow. Really appreciate you bearing here. Welcome to the Daily Code Fun. Today is kind of a low energy day for me. I am trying to reserve all of my energy for brain power to continue on the studying that I will be doing shortly, resuming shortly for an exam that I'll be taking this weekend. This is resolving to a time span, but I think it's because it's the time span bang or question mark nullable time span, and I want it to be a non-nullable time span. So null forgiveness operator, null forgiveness operator. So we know that by the time we get here, time span is not going to be null. And because earliest date and latest date are also not going to be null, because I am setting them here. Okay, so I have an iThread manager thing, and in these classes, they have a public override void start that I guess auto starts whenever the service is instantiated. Yeah, I would need to know more details because I've never used iThread manager. Sorry, still thinking out loud to myself. Okay. Yeah, it's going well. It's just my brain is divided between trying to learn how to write tests and mocking and stuff like that, as well as learning all of the Azure related stuff for the AZ204 certification exam that I'll be taking this weekend. And I don't think that I'm able to hold on. It's been pretty grueling on my brain, trying to learn both at the same time. And so I'm just trying to use a lot of my brain power on only the AZ204 so that I can make sure to pass that. And I'm not really understanding this whole testing thing completely. So I don't know. We'll find out what all is going on. Anyway, MKB is here, or the realm, or the real. I'll call you MKB from now on. I know I said that I was going to call you the realm, but it doesn't feel right because I don't think that you intended for your name to be the realm. I think you intended for it to be the real MKB. You just tell us to call you whatever, though. So MKB was responding to Deflux, the realm kilobyte, saying everything is possible in essence. However, if it's not easy, means no one has taken the time to make it easy. If no one has taken the time to make it easy, might be as it's a bad idea or a bad thing to do or has negative side effects. So I was kind of thinking about this a little bit, and I think we're gonna stop the stream here for now. But let me go to this big screen so you can see my big head talking at you. And I think that there are a lot of times that we as developers try to take something that exists out there, some kind of library, like me with this mock library and trying to set up mocking and not really look up how to do it. Um, but that we tried to use this tool in a way that it wasn't intended. Like the way that I think Steve Sanderson came about finding out how to do SQLite in a WASM app and ship pretty much SQLite as a WASM DLL with the WASM app was because people were trying to take this thing, this SQL database, SQLite database that's just a file, and use it in their WebAssembly application, their Blazor WebAssembly application, which wasn't the intent to begin with. And there are other things that were intended, like IndexedDB and local storage and all of these other technologies that were intended to be the web storage version, excuse me, of what you're trying to accomplish. But I kind of had the analogy of it's like you're trying to use a knife as a screwdriver. And either the screwdriver is going to get ruined or the knife is going to get ruined, or it may just end up working for a while at least. And it doesn't make sense to do that. The thing we really should pursue is let's find our tool that is appropriate for the thing that we're trying to accomplish. When we find something that we think is the right tool, maybe we need to learn more about that tool to make sure it is appropriate to be used. So in this case, the whole dependency injection thing, Deflux, I was a long way of getting to this. You would just want to make sure that you are using it the way that it's intended, I guess. You're using a saw to cut through wood instead of a hammer, for example. It might work with a hammer, but the intended tool to use is a saw, or the intended way to use a saw is to cut through something as opposed to beat on something, you know? So I really, really want to understand what it is that you're trying to set up, and then maybe we could give you more guidance on how it should be set up, as opposed to I'm trying to use this to do this thing. Or I'm trying to use this and I'm running into this issue, and then leave out the part of what the end goal is. Yeah, that's more what it feels like. So if we have more details about that, we might be able to respond a little bit easier, I think. So for me, it's like I'm trying to use Entity Framework and I'm trying to mock the database so that when I call my methods, and it's that so that phrase, so that when I call the methods on the server side and I do dependency injection and I do create a new DB context, validate my data, and add it to my collection of data, that I get back a response model with the correct ID sent back. Yeah. Okay. So first of all, Dukasov said, that's how I do all my dev stuff, not intended to be used that way. Evidus said, I thought someone might call me out because it was a lower, oh, it has a lowercase k. Yeah, it's kilobit. And it's really the B that matters, I think. If you want to get called out. But what else? What else am I missing? All right, so Deflex's response to that statement was, I mean to directly address your point. If it's not obvious what I'm asking, then it's because I haven't gone and understood what I'm trying to ask, and it may be that it's too complicated or inappropriate. And this is an indicator of just that. I don't want to get into the whole you answer one question, so answer the following 10 questions. Yeah. But you also might consider like, and again, it's a balance. It's a balance between how much detail do you provide for your question that you're trying to ask so that you get across the point, but don't over explain, I guess. And I run the risk of often over explaining. Like, here's all the research I did up front. Here's the scenario, my specific case, but broadly, here's what I'm asking. How do I get entity framework data mocked? Who cares that I'm testing it in a service? Who cares where I'm testing it? I just want to mock entity framework, my database data, so that I can test it. How do I do that? So I think we're going through some pretty good approaches for that, and hopefully it works. 9,001 pages of details should do the trick. Absolutely. Absolutely. But anyway, that is where I'm going to end for today. This video will be posted to YouTube after 24 hours or so, provided I remember to schedule it and have everything ready to publish. Feel free to join our Discord if you are new here. We are a really, really helpful community. We are respectful of each other, and it's great, and I love it. Everyone has been really amazing. And just like what I mentioned to Deflex's question, if you do actually have any kind of programming questions, then feel free to pop it into one of the channels and just let us know, here's what you tried, here's what the end goal is, and what it is about it that you don't understand. And we will do our best to answer. So, and I am still encouraging you, Deflex, if you have more detail to that that you would like help with and a response to, then definitely put it in wherever it's appropriate. This would be .NET help, yeah. Codehelp.net seems like an appropriate place. And then hopefully we'll be able to answer that. But for the rest of the day, I will be watching this refresher video, crash course, Cliff's Notes version of the AZ204 study material, and going through a practice test. And I will see you all again tomorrow for a Friday community day, where we may or may not have a real community day. It'd be nice if we do. It'd be cool. But if we don't, then it's just going to be more of me messing around with trying to get this test set up so that we have mock data and we can truly, truly do test-driven development, because that's the overall goal of this. I would like to do test-driven development for all of our backend services and have the test written and then implement the actual method so that the tests pass. So until the next time, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, if you want to hang out with another very chill individual, provided he's not going to stop streaming soon. He started an hour ago. We're going to head over to InstaFluff. Such a cool guy. Very chill guy. So let me just verify that he is going to be, or that it doesn't seem like he's wrapping up. Yeah, looks like he's going to be going for a while. The fluffy one! Yeah, I usually hang out on his channel whenever I see him streaming. Except I haven't been hanging out on anyone's channel really while I've been working on studying. So, no, I hate it when it does that. InstaFluff. I clicked off of it and then that canceled the raid. But yeah, so I just have a feeling that he's going to ask a few questions because, you know, courtesy. And I'll stick around to answer his questions about how the stream went and all of that fun stuff. But really just going to try to get back to studying as quickly as possible. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed your day with me. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And however long before I see you, just enjoy your time. Hope to see you again in the future. Okay, ciao for now.